They say you've been breathing your entire life. But what if I told you that you've never actually breathed the way your soul was meant to? What if the air you draw now is only a shadow of a much older, much more powerful force? There's a kind of breath, older than time, deeper than lungs, that doesn't just keep you alive. It awakens you, not just biologically, but spiritually. This isn't about oxygen. It's about activating the forgotten magic buried within you. The question is, are you ready to remember? Before we dive deep, type this in the comments if you've ever felt like there's more to life than what you see. I know there's something ancient inside me. Let the world know. You're not here by accident. You're here because your soul led you to this message. And if that sentence stirred something in your chest, then hit that like button, not just because it helps the channel, but because it sends a signal to the world and to your own subconscious that you're ready to awaken. Every like is a breath towards remembering what you once knew. Now listen closely. There are forces moving through you that science can't measure. Forces that sages, mystics, and ancient civilizations understood intimately. The breath we take is not just a biological reflex, it's a sacred rhythm, a cosmic pulse. When harnessed correctly, it doesn't just calm your mind, it unlocks portals, it breaks veils, it activates memory, not of this life, but of the lives before and the eternal one underneath them all. Have you ever wondered why certain breathing patterns make you feel high, connected, or like you're floating outside your body? That's no accident. That's no illusion. That's the beginning of a return to source. But most people dismiss it as relaxation, as stress relief. They never stay long enough to remember. Because the moment you start to tap into this sacred current, your old self begins to dissolve. And the ego? It resists, it panics, it fights for control because it knows something ancient is waking up. In this video, you're going to discover something that was never meant to be common knowledge, a truth hidden in plain breath. We'll trace it back to the ancient mystery schools, the sacred texts, the lost temples where initiates were taught to breathe not like mortals, but like gods. You'll see why certain traditions hid this knowledge, why modern systems ignored it, and how it can reshape your inner world more profoundly than anything else. But this isn't just history or theory. This is a path, one that runs through your chest, through the silent spaces between your inhales and exhales. We're going to explore what happens when breath becomes intention, when air becomes light, and light becomes knowing. We'll break down the forgotten meanings behind the sacred breathwork traditions. We'll unveil the lost techniques. And finally, we'll show you how to begin. Because this is not about learning something new. It's about remembering something eternal, something that's been waiting within you. Patient, ancient, powerful. Are you ready to feel it? Let's begin. Long before the noise of modern civilization, before the rise of machines and wires and relentless thinking, there were those who knew that breath was not merely a function of the body. It was a sacred key. Across the sands of Egypt, within the silence of Himalayan caves, in the echoing halls of Greek temples and the jungles of Mesoamerica, adepts, mystics, and seekers treated the breath not as a passive act, but as a deliberate ritual. They believed and knew that the breath was a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a vessel for prana, chi, ruach, pneuma, the ancient names for life force. The Egyptians etched depictions of initiates in precise breathing postures inside tombs meant for royalty. The air drawn in was not just to fill lungs, it was to open portals within the self. In the Hermetic teachings, it was said that as above, so below, as within, so without. This was not metaphor, it was instruction, To breathe with awareness was to align oneself with the cosmos, to mimic the inhalation and exhalation of the universe itself, a rhythm older than the stars. In India, yogis practiced pranayama not to stretch or feel calm, but to still the mind enough that the soul could finally speak. In Tibetan traditions, the subtle breath was said to carry consciousness through the secret channels of the body, guiding practitioners toward rainbow body realization. Meanwhile, the ancient Chinese masters of Taoism believed the breath carried the spirit through the dantian, igniting the inner elixir, the path to immortality. And then, something changed. As empires rose and fell, as religion merged with politics and power sought to control truth, these sacred practices were veiled, hidden, sometimes ridiculed, other times forbidden. Breath became just breath, reduced to a function, mechanized, forgotten. And with it, humanity drifted from its own inner magic. The knowledge was never lost, not entirely. It was encoded in symbols, in myths, in the whispers of secret societies and scattered scrolls that found refuge in monasteries and deserts. The very word inspiration once meant to be filled with the divine. The breath of God, the same breath said to give life to Adam, became mere metaphor. But to the ancients, this was literal. The divine spark entered through the breath. It was the moment the clay became conscious. Even in Christianity, the Holy Spirit was often equated with wind, breath, pneuma. In the Quran, it's written that Allah breathed His Spirit into man. The Mayans spoke of ik, the breath wind that animates all creation. And the Aboriginal peoples of Australia believed in a dream time, where ancestral beings sang the world into existence with the breath of their chants. Every culture had a name for it. Every culture once revered it. And yet now, in our hyper-stimulated world, we breathe like machines, shallow, thoughtless, mechanical. We've forgotten the sacred art of being breathed. But here's what they never told you. The moment you reclaim your breath, you begin to reclaim your power. Real, ancient, unshakable power. The breath is the first thing you did when you entered this world, and it will be the last thing you do when you leave. Yet somewhere between those two moments lies the greatest mystery, that in between every inhale and exhale is a doorway. Those doorways are where the magic happens. In this hidden space, the Egyptians believed you could cross into other realms. The yogis taught that time collapses. The Taoists said energy crystallizes into wisdom. And mystics knew this is where the soul whispers its truth, where healing begins, where awakenings ignite. So when we say that the true awakening begins with breathing, it's not poetic fluff. It's ancient science, esoteric fact, spiritual law. But most people never access it. Not because they can't, but because they were never told how. Because somewhere along the line, breath was stripped of its sacredness, turned into a background process, just another rhythm in the noise of life. But you're beginning to remember, and that changes everything. Close your eyes for a moment. Breathe in deeply, hold it. Now exhale slowly. That space you just entered between breath and thought, that silence. That is where the forgotten language of the soul begins to whisper. And yet we rush through it. We never stop long enough to feel what's truly happening. But if you could learn to stay there, if you could stretch that space, you would begin to notice something profound. Reality bends when breath becomes conscious. What we call awakening doesn't come from more information. It comes from inner ignition. And breath is the flint. The ancients didn't speak of breath the way we do today. For them, it wasn't about deep breathing for stress relief. It was about entering altered states on purpose, not through substances or extremes, but through rhythm, pattern, presence. When breath slows, time slows. When time slows, awareness expands. And when awareness expands, the walls of the known world start to crack. Now let me take you into a deeper layer, one hidden in plain sight. Have you ever noticed that when you're afraid, your breath shortens? When you cry, it trembles? When you're in awe, you pause. The breath is the first messenger of your internal world. But here's the truth they won't teach you in schools. You can reverse the signal. You can breathe in a way that alters fear, softens grief, evokes awe. Breath becomes a dial you can turn to tune your frequency, to choose your state, to rewrite your inner landscape. The Sufis had a name for this. They called it the breath of remembrance. With every inhale, they pulled in the divine. With every exhale, they let go of the illusion. They didn't just breathe, they prayed with their breath, merged with it, and in doing so, transcended the layers of ego that kept them bound to suffering. Let me offer you a metaphor. Imagine your soul as a locked temple. The breath is the key, but not just any key. It must be turned with awareness, intention. You can't force it. You must honor it. Each inhale is not just air, it's light. Each exhale, not just release, it's transformation. When this is understood, breathwork becomes more than a practice. It becomes alchemy. Even modern science, slowly catching up, acknowledges that certain breathing rhythms shift brainwave states, activating theta, delta, gamma, states associated with insight, healing, and transcendence. But while science maps the effects, ancient wisdom understood the purpose, not to escape, but to return, to peel back the illusion of separation, to step beyond the mind, into the soul's terrain. Some breathing practices guide you to hyper-oxygenate the body, like the Wim Hof method or holotropic breathwork, inducing deep emotional release or even visual hallucinations. But this is not about chasing an experience. The goal isn't to feel something, it's to remember something. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember the part of you that cannot be broken, labeled, or lost. In ancient Kabbalistic tradition, the breath was considered so sacred that the true name of God, YHWH, was never spoken because it was believed to be breathed. The inhale Yah, the exhale Way. To breathe was to say the name of the divine. Every breath, a silent prayer, a reminder of where you came from. So what does that mean for you? It means the very act you've taken for granted your whole life is the portal you've been searching for. It means that the answers you seek in books, gurus, or rituals may already live in your chest, rising and falling, moment after moment, quietly waiting for you to notice. And maybe that's why you're here. Not to learn this, but to remember it. Because something inside you already knows that your breath carries memory, power, and ancient light. That your awakening isn't a future event, it's a present choice. And all it takes is one sacred breath. There is a strange and beautiful paradox that every mystic eventually encounters. The more deeply you breathe, the more of yourself you lose. And yet, the more of your true self you remember. It's as if each conscious breath doesn't add something new. It strips away everything false. You're not becoming someone greater. You're returning to who you already are beneath the noise, the fear, the pretending. And here lies one of the most powerful secrets ever buried in plain sight. Breath reveals identity. Not the identity stitched together from names and jobs and roles. Number the identity that was always there, long before you had a name, long before the world taught you to be small. In ancient Egypt, the Ka and Ba were the vital essences of the soul, both carried and activated through breath. The Ka was the life force, the Ba the spiritual essence. Together, through the breath, they traveled between worlds, between the material and the divine. To master the breath was to become a navigator of realms. But let's explore even deeper, because the breath doesn't just move through your body. It moves through your thoughts. It moves through your emotions. It changes the landscape of your internal dialogue. You can test this now. The next time you feel anger rise, shift your breath. Instead of reacting, pause. Inhale gently, as if you were receiving sacred information. Exhale with reverence, as if you were releasing generations of pain. Do this for 1 minute, and your entire emotional frequency will shift. Why? Because emotion is energy in motion, emotion. And the breath? It's the conductor of that energy. When you control the breath, you direct the flow of energy itself. This is not a metaphor. This is esoteric anatomy. The breath activates energy centers in your body, often misunderstood or ignored in the West, but known across indigenous traditions and mystery schools alike. In the yogic system, these are the chakras, vortexes of spinning energy, responsive to breath. In Chinese medicine, these are meridians, channels of qi flow. In Kabbalistic teachings, the tree of life itself is a map of divine breath moving through creation. All of them point to the same truth. Your body is not just flesh. It is a breathing instrument of transformation. And yet, we must acknowledge a deeper mystery still. There are breaths you cannot take with your lungs. Some initiates speak of a kind of inner breath, an invisible inhalation that occurs when the soul draws wisdom from the unseen realms. This is the breath you take when beauty stuns you, when music breaks you open, when silence feels like it's speaking directly to your heart. That, too, is breath, the kind that happens without your permission, because something deeper within you has chosen to awaken. But here's what most people get wrong. Awakening is not a one-time event. It's not a peak experience or a moment of bliss. True awakening is layered, cyclical, humbling, and it doesn't always feel good. Because before it enlightens you, it will unmake you. Before it blesses you, it will strip you. And in those moments when the world feels like it's crumbling, your breath becomes your anchor, your lifeline, your reminder that even in pain, you are divine. This is why breathwork is not just a technique, it is a devotion. A spiritual path disguised as a biological function. And the greatest illusion? That something so simple could not possibly be so powerful. But that's the design. The deepest truths are always hidden in simplicity. The divine doesn't shout. It whispers. And your breath, silent, rhythmic, constant, is the softest whisper of all. But if you listen long enough, it will tell you everything. It will tell you who you are. It will tell you why you came here. It will remind you that the magic you seek is already inside you, rising and falling, every moment of every day. The question is, will you finally listen? You've felt it already, haven't you? That subtle shift when you pause and follow your breath, not just to survive, but to awaken. Now let's move from knowing to doing, from theory to transformation. Because this isn't just about mystical ideas floating in ancient texts. This is about changing your state of being, right here, right now. You don't need to become a monk, retreat to a cave, or abandon your life. All you need is a moment, a choice, a breath, and you already have everything required. Let's begin simply. Sit wherever you are. Uncross your legs. Place your feet flat on the floor. Let your spine rise, tall but not tense, like a tree pulled upward by light. Gently close your eyes. Now inhale slowly through your nose to the count of 4. Hold the breath for 4. Exhale softly through your mouth to the count of 6. Pause. Repeat. Feel the air not just entering your body but awakening it. Visualize the breath as golden light, illuminating every cell it touches. With each exhale, release not just air, but stories, pain, labels, noise. This is not just breathing, this is remembering. Now let's add intention. With every inhale, think to yourself, I am receiving. With every exhale, I am releasing. Receive what? Life, light, truth. Release what? Fear, tension, illusion. You're retraining your nervous system. You're breaking the loop of unconscious suffering. You're becoming the architect of your inner world. This simple ritual, done for even 5 minutes a day, begins to rewire you, not just mentally, but energetically, spiritually. You're reconnecting to the field of life that surrounds and animates all things. But let's go deeper still. There is a breath called the triad breath, known in ancient practices as a way to activate dormant energy. Here's how it works. Inhale sharply through the nose in 2 short bursts. 1, 2. Then exhale fully through the mouth. It sounds like sniff sniff. Whew. Do this rhythmically for a minute. You may feel tingling, lightness, even emotion rising. Don't resist. That's the energy stirring. You're not just breathing, you're waking up. And every cell in your body remembers. Try it for 60 seconds. Then stop. Sit in silence. Let the breath return to normal. You may feel like time has stopped. That's not your imagination. That's awareness unbound by the mind. And in that stillness, ask a question. Any question your soul longs to answer. You may not hear words. You may not get clarity immediately, but something will shift. Insight begins here. You can also use breath to break patterns. The next time you feel triggered, angry, anxious, numb, don't run, scroll, or escape. Stop. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold it. Exhale with a loud sigh. Do this 3 times. This is a pattern interrupt, a sacred reset. You are training your system to choose presence over reaction. And over time, presence becomes your power. And if you truly want to take this further, there's an ancient breath pattern used by initiates before entering altered states of vision. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. It slows the heart, clears the mind, opens the third eye. Do it before sleep, or in nature, or before making a major decision. Over time, this breath becomes a key, and behind that key, doors will open within you that you didn't even know existed. But remember, the breath itself is not the magic. You are. The breath is the path, the tool, the guide. But it's your presence, your intention, your willingness to go inward that transforms air into alchemy. This is how you return to your power. Quietly, consistently, deliberately. So breathe, not just to stay alive, but to feel alive. Breathe, not just to calm your mind, but to awaken your soul. Breathe, because the universe is waiting for you to remember that it speaks through your inhale and listens through your exhale. And in that sacred rhythm, everything begins to change. Everything begins and ends with breath. That was the first thing your body ever did when you entered this world. Not cry, not think, not speak, but breathe. And when your time in this form comes to its final moment, the breath will be the last thing you release. Breath is your first language, your original song. The sound of the eternal humming through your temporary form. And maybe now you're starting to understand. It was never just oxygen. It was always spirit. The word inspire means to breathe in, but it also means to fill with spirit, to animate. That's not coincidence, it's a clue. Every time you breathe consciously, you're inviting spirit into matter. You're allowing the divine to move through the human. You're blending heaven and earth inside the temple of your own body. And when done with intention, with reverence, this becomes not just practice, but prayer. You are not here to chase awakening. You are here to live it. Not as a peak experience, but as a continuous remembering. A moment-by-moment return to the part of you that never left source, that never forgot. You don't need to escape life to become spiritual. You need to breathe through life until the sacred is visible in all things, even the painful, the ordinary, the unseen. And as you begin this journey into conscious breathing, something extraordinary will happen. The world around you will start to feel less chaotic. Not because it changed, but because you did. You'll start noticing synchronicities, moments of clarity, insights that arrive not from the mind, but from somewhere deeper. You'll speak less, but say more. Feel more, but suffer less. You'll begin to glow, not with light, but with awareness. And others will notice. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll feel it. Because there's something undeniable about a person who breathes with intention. They're calm, but not passive. Present, but not disengaged. They don't need to control the world because they've learned how to return to the center of it, within themselves. So if you've felt disconnected, if you've been searching for meaning, clarity, peace, know this. It was never lost. It's always been here. Beneath the noise, beneath the stories, beneath the layers of forgetting, all of it, waiting in your next breath. And maybe, just maybe, this is your moment. The breath you're taking right now could be the breath that changes everything, not because it's special, but because you're awake for it, because you're choosing to listen, to feel, to remember. So take one last deep breath with me now, and know that in doing so, you are activating the very magic you've been searching for, not out there, but here, within. If this message stirred something inside you, if it cracked something open, leave a comment with the words, "I remember who I am." Let's speak the truth into the world together. And if this journey into the breath awakened you, then honor it, like this video, so more souls can find their way back to themselves through the breath. You are the key. You always were. The breath just helped you see it. Welcome home.